Hey everyone, I'm Arthur Root and I'm joined by Brian Esposito today. And before we get started, I'm just going to give a quick introduction on Nostra and then we'll get an introduction from Brian here. So what we do at Nostra is we take information on who's visiting your website. And then based on who that is, we'll determine the best combination of content. So we can determine that should be call to action A, image B, customer testimonial C, and that is the proper combination of content that is going to get whoever is visiting your site at that specific time to convert. And so, Brian, thank you for being here and thank you for taking the time to talk with me. Love to just hear your story. You've been a part of hundreds of successful businesses. Love to just hear kind of your background, and then we can dive right into it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure and honor. And Arthur, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to have our discussion and see the great little nuggets we can create together for all your listeners. So over the last 20 years, I built what is a holding company at the top level, wholly owned by myself. Underneath that, there's over 65 entities. There's over 150 joint ventures and operating in over 25 different industries. I like to consider the ecosystem that I built industry agnostic, or one degree from any industry or market that I may want to enter into or do business in. With that being said, what I really am finding value and rewarding right now in this chapter of my life is I get to work with startups, even up to Fortune 500 companies, and take everything that I've built, whether it's the companies, the partnerships, the acquisitions that I've made, more importantly, contacts and relationships, access to banking, great legal compliance. We have a private security division. So take that entire world and then plop it into a situation where we can create value for startups and even large enterprise companies. Look to create new products, solutions, or offerings that the market needs, and then have direct access to getting them developed or built correctly with the right price points, and then distributed to whether B2B or a B2C marketplace. So that's been very exciting, and it really proved its strength last year when the world was shutting down. Now, there were certain industries that were excelling: telemedicine, private jet industry, obviously healthcare with vaccines, and any type of efforts that would help reduce the spread of a disease, or help some of the symptoms. So what we're able to do is take that opportunity and say, okay, well, we can sit back and hope the world gets better, and then all this stuff just falls apart because we don't have anywhere to go, or go and create products that we can get to market to just to be a player in this space. And we quickly developed one product in specific with a company called Nodal. It's one of my most coveted holdings. We became the world's largest global wireless network, and through that process, Nodal built a contact tracing app known as the Coalition Network, and then a contact tracing device known as the M1, all privacy focused. And the whole idea behind it is contact tracing, ability to notify and alert and stop the spread. And we were able to do that because, again, access, knowing how to make these products, knowing how to get them distributing, having the right resources and relationships to make them a priority. So it was really exciting to see the network and the world that I built really kick into high gear, all these companies helping each other and building value. And that's been quite a rewarding process on this journey that I've been on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so before we dive into kind of the marketing and kind of the trends that you're seeing across your businesses, love to hear kind of about the early days. We're both entrepreneurs and have been for a long, long time. Love to hear kind of your personal story, kind of getting this thing off the ground.
Yeah, so in the late 90s, I've built the first B2B, B2C marketplace for the beauty industry. The site was known as AvU. I built it because I was initially driving around the salons and spas throughout New Jersey, New York area, and I just hated it. I was getting thrown out of salons, getting thrown out of spas. Couldn't hit so many locations that I wanted to hit during a day. It was a very tough business to scale. So with good timing, taught myself how to code, had great access to products, put all this stuff in a perfect formula. It was really a quick success having that website up and running. We had people from all over the world, whether they were professional stylists, salon or spa owners, and then the direct consumer, all coming to us to buy their supplies. And we became like the hottest girl at the prom at the time. And all these companies wanted to work with us. All these distribution networks wanted to work with us. I was initially doing all the Google AdWords myself. Because of that, we were quite a big Google AdWords client. We were the first to launch the Google Wallet, which ultimately was not a success, but it was very cool to be part of that process. We were Amazon's first luxe beauty category store, selling these products in a different way of marketing to a consumer that understands luxury beauty and understands the products that they want or the ingredients that they want. I was honored to be Jet.com's first retail partner. We were in beta with them. I assisted and worked with the Walmart e-commerce team early on to help with their beauty distribution and their beauty network of product offerings. So the beauty industry is a very unique animal, which is the long story of me telling you how I got to where I'm getting. You know, it's embedded in the music industry. It's embedded in fashion. It's embedded in technology. It's just a massive, massive industry. At one point in time, it was liquor, tobacco, beauty, and gambling that were known to be recession proof. Now I think beauty is the only one that's standing on its feet, and it's proven to be pandemic proof. I mean, people will spend their last dollar to look good because it makes them feel good. And it's quite a powerful industry. So with that, celebrities came to us, entertainers, athletes, actors and actresses, musicians, to build beauty products for them. And I was doing it so wrong for 15 years, foolishly wrong. I had a wrong mindset. I was, at the time, honored to be in that room helping them build their products and then having our massive reach to distribute those products and give them big exposure and revenues. What ultimately happened time over time was that these brands that I was just a distributor for, or just a retailer for, ultimately became very successful, and they were sold off to the bigger companies, whether they were an LVMH, an Estee Lauder, a L'Oreal, or Revlon, the bigger players in beauty, Procter and Gamble. And my mind was like, okay, well, that one's done. I'll go and find another one. And I always had to make sure I had a pipeline of new brands, because, you know, that's the bloodline of the beauty industry, of new trends, new ingredients, new formulas. And then I said, this has to stop. So I began this road of, well, what if I had a music band? So then I went out, we built a music band. And very expensive industry to get into, but we built a really cool band. I had access to people, and we had an amazing product. And we became a Macy's iHeart top rising stars one year. So now it's like, okay, well, we have the products, we have the distribution, we can manufacture, now we own a band. Then I'm thinking, well, we need to own the apparel company for the merchandising. So in my mind, I just kept building all of these other companies. It was a mess until relatively recently, where I said, if there's a need for something, I'm going to build it. I'm going to figure out how to own it, whether it was technology, whether it was some sort of a product or a solution or IP. And then I wanted to create a world where I invited people into my world, rather than me being used and invited into other people's world and hoping that they do the right thing, or then avoiding the idea of I have to fight a contract agreement, because even though we have a contract and we verbally agreed to it, they still don't do the right thing, and I got to chase people for money. I did not want to be in that world or in that situation. So finally, 20 years later, I'm in a place where I love what I'm doing. I love the win-win situations that I build. And it was the beauty industry that got me into, again, now over 25 different industries, because I have this great model of seeing an opportunity, finding out how to create that opportunity with a company or a partnership, and then going to market with it. And then with the ecosystem of the world of companies and joint ventures that I have, it's very easy to drop something in that and instantly create value, instantly create real tangible value that has revenues, positive earnings, and you create a world where you don't have to worry about going to the market, raising capital. You don't have to worry about what's going on in the market. You have this really controlled, tight, safe place where companies can thrive, and they share resources to ensure their existence.
That sounds fantastic. I think one of the pieces of advice that I try to give entrepreneurs is, it's easy, especially when you're like raising your first financing round or something along those lines, to be starstruck, to be like, oh, I'm in the room with this person, or I'm in the room with that person. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to realize that, hey, it's me. I'm here. There's one of me. There are plenty of investors. There are plenty of clients, and that, not to be disrespectful to anyone, and obviously kind of do it with all the respect, but like, you have to value yourself. You have to value your time.
100%.
And so I think that mindset shift from being lucky to be there to being like, hey, no, I'm here. I'm here to play, and I'm ready to go. And it's not offensive. It just is what it is.
I completely 100%. I had that model wrong for a long time. I don't care if someone has $1 in the bank or $1 billion in the bank. I'm always who I am, and like me or hate me, that's just who I am. But it is important that you find a way to value yourself, because what you said is spot on, crucial to your mental health, your confidence, and your ability to. If you're in a room, it's not. Some of it's luck, but it's even us talking. I love thinking about this. Everything that I did, let's say post, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, any decision that I made that had an impact on the path I was on for my life led to where I am sitting right now talking to you. So it's all those decisions, it's all those mistakes, it's all those lack of decisions, who you met, who you didn't meet. And if you look back, it's a phenomenal thing to think about, because that everything happens for a reason, and you are where you are right now based upon all that. And that's when you start to realize that you understand your future is wide open. The opportunities that you have, or that you can create, or you can be involved in, are so important that you have calmness about you. There's no real crazy emotion about you. You need to be open to the world, even if you've been used and abused. I always thank those people, because when someone hurts me, takes advantage of me, puts me in a bad position, I take ownership because I allowed it to happen. And I say a prayer for them, and I thank them, because they showed me that I have a vulnerability or an openness about myself that allowed that event to take place. It's not on them. I can't sit and waste time wondering, why do they do that? I don't act like that. Why did that person think like that or say that? You cannot give anybody else your mindset. It's the biggest waste of time in the world. And I'm speaking as a hypocrite, because those people were not raised in your household. They did not go through your life experiences. They don't have the DNA and the genes that you have that make them act or react to certain situations. So when that happens to you, you got to just get over it as quickly as possible, and then look inward as to, why did that happen? What did I do to make that situation happen? Because at the end of the day, it's your doing.
Yep. Yeah. It reminds me of two things. One, which is a Steve Jobs, I think it was his Stanford graduation speech. And it was, and I don't remember the exact quote, but it was a concept which was, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so as an entrepreneur, you have to have the faith that as you move forward, the dots will connect, and that, if you continue to make logical decisions, things will work out, and you continue to work hard, things will work out. But nobody can connect the dots moving forward. It's always on the way back.
I like that.
But anyways, to move it over to kind of marketing. So you're a part of consumer brands, B2B software companies, and it seems like a lot of other types of companies. Within kind of the digital marketing environment, are you seeing any sort of trends? Is there anything that's going on that you find exciting?
I always found that space exciting, especially in the late 90s when I built that first platform. We had stores, we had distribution centers. The whole world was used to face-to-face, in-person transactions, especially on the retail side and the consumer side. And it was so important to me to always feel and be engaged with, what is the next level of connectivity look like. We packed our orders in beautiful shopping bags. We did everything we could possibly do, that when they opened the box, and it was a beautiful, expensive box, I mean, did everything right as far as branding, because I'm wired as a marketer. I'm wired to tell a beautiful story that connects with whoever the audience is. I went to school for it. Even without going to school for it, I was always thinking about marketing. I see something, I'm like, oh my God, I would take that, I'd change the name, and we would reposition it. Like, that's just like, I'm always looking at the world in a way that, I don't know if you remember a company called BASF, but it was a really cool company. And their tagline was, we don't make the products, we make the products better. And I always connected with that line, because anytime I saw something, and granted, I have a biased opinion, it's my mindset, I always think, oh, I could make that look and pop and be connected to an audience so much better. So it's an exhausting mindset. You possibly have it as well as a marketer. But to answer your question, so the digital side of people's time that they have to make a decision, well, it was milliseconds. I mean, I guess when I first started, maybe it was a couple seconds, because there wasn't so much noise going on. But now you have lightning fast speed to get someone to see your message, see your product, see your logo, connect with it, and make a buying decision, or at least plant a seed for them to make a buying decision at some point in the near future, and without them forgetting about it or seeing something else and being involved in the next thing that they saw and they completely forgot about it. So yeah, obviously the influencer space, people continue to pour tons of money into that for connectivity and brand awareness. I just, I love the industry that these very talented people have built because they've built massive audiences. I just don't like that they're not extremely selective as to themselves as a brand and then the companies that they decide to work with, because I see it a little watered down. I see somebody that's marketing a bunch of different stuff and you're wondering what is their message, as because I look at everybody like a brand too. Like if you're going to go to the influencer space, you're going to be this prominent person in your world that's going to suggest things. Well, be selective. Think of yourself 20, 30 years down the line. Like Kathy Ireland, I love her story. She's a tremendous woman. She started out as a supermodel and actress, and she took that brand and she was so smart about every decision she made, every product that she got behind, every brand or company she partnered with. She ultimately created a multi-billion-dollar licensing company. And she did that because she understood herself as a brand and how powerful her name was. And all these men and women that have these monstrous engagement and monstrous reaches, they can all be a Kathy Ireland if they're just so careful as to every decision they make and not just making money. Then a lot of it's not even their fault. Once they get into a management situation or they have an agent, the agent's job is to grab their 10%, and that means they have to always make sure that there's money coming in. So it's an amazing space, but it's also very noisy and sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense to me as to the messaging that they're doing as a community.
Yeah. I mean, especially in digital marketing, I think what you mentioned earlier, just kind of when you see something, you have milliseconds and to react as a consumer. And then another thing you mentioned, which is, when you're looking at Google AdWords and all of those things, you're looking at the messaging as to, okay, how can I, I'm going by a billboard, I'm going by an advertisement online. Oh, I see this. I would tweak it slightly. I would tweak it this way. I tweak it that way. What I think is just beautiful that's coming up is the influence of machine learning and AI within this space. So, for example, we can say, it's impossible for us to run 10,000 experiments as a human just because I can't go and statistically get statistical significance on all these different A/B tests. But when we let machines do it and we let AI and machine learning go about it, we can run, I think we, ran the analysis, we can do 16,000 years of experiments in 2 weeks. It's just not,
That's insane.
It's just not, it's a different playing field. And so we're going to see this big shift to direct messaging that makes sense to each individual and that's relevant.
Yeah.
It's not creepy, it's just relevant. I'm really, really excited for the future.
I agree. Yeah, if you start to connect that with, what's going on in manufacturing processes, because there's a ton of AI and machine learning going into that world. And if you were to combine, what I think is kind of cool, if you were to combine what Industry 2.0 into what the consumer doesn't even know that's coming out, and you start to marry that formula where you get that data and that excitement before they even know about it. It's a little freaky if you think about it, but it's very cool to combine where the trends are going before they even start, and then the manufacturing process, the distribution process, and then ultimately the end consumer, the end buyer. Very freaky if you're scared of it's a form of manipulation in an extent, but it is what we want. Human nature is craving excitement. It's craving the ability to connect and be associated with something. It's always a product. That's what makes somebody feel connected to an athlete, an entertainer, a musician. It's like, what product do they have, or what product are they endorsing, or what drink are they drinking? That's part of why we connect with people. So it's going to be really exciting to see industry, AI and machine learning combined with the marketing geniuses like you guys and your company, and really perfecting that. Without failure, you can probably get close to 100% of satisfying a consumer's needs without them being frustrated, don't like it, and you have the ability to eliminate returns. There's a whole world here in how you help a company grow and be profitable based on exactly what you said.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be great because it's going to take less human time. We can build content, we can test content, we can do all sorts of things, build audiences. There's all these things that machine learning can do. You just don't need to do as a human, so you can focus on what really matters within the business, which is your brand taking a stand. Saying this is what we do, this is our strategy, this is what we stand for. Machine learning isn't going to do that for you. Like it can influence minor things, but it's not going to say, it's not just going to come up with a new business for you right now. And so
right now,
right now, we'll see. Give us a decade or two, and we'll get there. But it's going to be a really, really cool thing to see. It's going to be enabling humans. It's going to be enabling entrepreneurs. Just like AWS, just like Stripe enables entrepreneurs to not have to worry about servers or payment processors. This is going to enable entrepreneurs to not really have to worry about website optimization or how to run exactly the right inbound marketing funnel.
No, I agree, and that's it's intimidating to a lot of mom and pop sites. And if you look at companies like any web hosting company that has a retail component or an e-commerce component, it gets intimidating, and people typically just do the bare basics, and they could do so much more. So everything you're saying is spot on to help that company grow with a plugin like this that could be put into a Shopify account or some other, like a WordPress account. And then you have the ability to collect that data and analyze it and spit out what the, how you want to direct that consumer to the right product or the right offering.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so what's next for you? We've talked a lot about marketing. We've talked, I know you're going to the Bitcoin conference in Miami. What else is on the horizon for you? Anything that's exciting you moving forward?
We have a lot of exciting holdings right now. Our private aviation holdings, Star Jets continues to soar, no pun intended. This pandemic has created and you may see this with your data analysis and your machine learning. People of affluent means that may have bought a first class ticket for them or their family don't want to do that. They rather go and charter a jet or get a private plane to keep them safe, keep their family safe, and avoid going into an airport situation and going through that process. And I think we'll see that trend continue, which is great for the industry. It's showing a ton of enhancements as to the service offerings. Private aviation airplane purchases are through the roof. Companies like Wheels Up continue to do great things. That we have a powerhouse company I'm so honored to be part of, 4 years of development called Turncoin, and the branded product name or the platform is called The Exchange. We're launching with the esports exchange, and it's the first of its kind where you have the ability to buy a virtual share of either an amateur or professional esports player. And it'll roll out into the sports exchange, the music exchange, the celebrity exchange. And it's one of the most incredible platforms, user experience, and user engagement platforms that I've ever seen, where you can immediately buy a virtual share of somebody like you would buy a stock. And it's based on their popularity. It's based on their engagement with their fans and their audience. And I like to compare it to owning a baseball card, but it's a virtual trading card of somebody. So that's going to be really exciting. That's a ton of hours of work, years of work, and a really rock star team to get that going. And I think the timing is perfect for it, being that people are excited about things like NFTs. They understand the crypto space and other asset classes and where you can transfer some of your wealth into different holdings opposed to the usual CDs, bonds, stocks, savings accounts, and real estate. So that's been taking a lot of our time. Nodal is on fire. Like I said, it's the world's largest global wireless network. Nodal, the interest in the Nodal Cash coin has been through the roof, which we anticipate will be on top tier exchanges shortly. The team is working very hard to go through all the regulatory processes and all the compliance with that. But it's such a kick-ass team. That's 5 years of work there as well. I've been working with Nodal for over 3 years now. And, what I love to do is, again, I see things a little bit differently. And I love to take, again, what I have access to from the past and who I may meet on my trip down to Miami and connect that and combine it and create instant value. So I'm always looking for new ways to help companies grow. I'm always looking for great new people to learn from and work with, and to be determined what's going to happen next. But that's where we're at.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're just coming up on the mark here. Is there any last things, anything that I didn't ask you about, anything that you want kind of the audience to know about before we, take off?
Just anybody that's listening and building their own business, it's a tough journey. And anybody that tells you that it's easy or always fun is lying or delusional. So every bruise you may get, every setback you may get, it's so important to the journey. And speaking from experience, I've been through hell and back, and present day, it's the harder the journey, the more rewarding the outcome. And the reward doesn't always have to be financial. It's you become more experienced, you meet great people, you start to learn how to do things a little bit smarter, a little bit wiser. You become your own AI machine learning person as you get older and you go through experiences. You start to immediately know the answer to things before you even have to be asked it. And you know which directions to go and which people to avoid. So I wish everybody listening nothing but great success. I try to make myself always available to anybody that may want to reach out to me or try to work with me. So anybody that's listening that could use an extra set of eyeballs or an opinion on something you're working on, I'd be honored to take the call or message you.
Fantastic. And how should people get in contact with you if they are interested?
Sure. EIE.rocks is the corporate site. So EIE.ROCKS. And as far as social media, I only use LinkedIn and Twitter. And you can find me on both with my name, Brian J. Esposito, or direct email through the corporate website.
Fantastic. Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on. And for any visitors that want to find out more about Nostra, you can just go to nostra.ai and you can book some time and talk to me about it, or you can, just browse around, watch some demo videos and hear more about the product. But Brian, thank you again for coming on.
Oh, thank you, pal. Have a great day.